Hi guys, Andy Air Rifle Sniper here. Today I'm just going to do a bit of a quick breakdown on the REXIMEX regime. This particular version is in .25 Cal. Yeah, just so you can get into it and show you basically what the rifle's about. The rifle itself is fitted with a fully adjustable top rail, so if you find you run out of elevation, etc., it is fully adjustable, so you can tip it just to get your scope spot on. Obviously you find with a lot of the bigger scopes you can run out of adjustment on them, so I've obviously slackened out a few things on this just to get it apart a bit quicker for you for the video really. But obviously in here you've got Allen key headed bolts, 4 in total, 2 either side. So we'll take that off, which drops your scope off. Then up front, one here, one here, one here, one here, and the same on the opposite side, one here and one here. That will enable you to slide your top plastics off. On the flip, as you'll see it, it will be like so. Put yourself something in there just to flick it out, and right down the bottom in there you'll find that 5mm Allen key bolt again. Once that is off, you can then remove the mechanism and the rest of the main body of the rifle out of the plastic body. Same with most of the rifles now, you are going to come across anti-tamper bolts within the strip down. One of them being on the underside of the rifle, just here at the back, which is the second pinch bolt for the main air tube. The other is on the barrel fixing screw. Mine was on the rear, it may be on the front, it obviously depends on where they decide to put them in. So that was removed and obviously refitted with a stainless headed Allen key bolt grub screw. Now I remove them basically just so I can get into the rifle myself, so if I get a seal go I can strip it and sort it out myself. We'll go into stripping this down. Now, first of all, we'll strip off the pinch bolts for the barrel. Just hold that and here we go. So we've basically loosened those two at the top here. Grab hold of the end of the barrel with the shroud and give it a bit of a wiggle, and as you can see it will slide out. That relieves your barrel, leaving you with what we see here. Now if you're not messing with anything internals of the tube, you don't need to drain the air, because you just slide it out, and then unless you're belting the end of the valve, you're not going to get any air come out of it, so you are pretty much safe in that respect. Now to get this section out of the way, you've got two choices. You can remove it with the tube if this is the area you want to get to, or you can undo everything and obviously take this mechanism off first, but for hassle's sake I tend to keep it all in sync and not move it out the way of anything. So to do so, on the very back here you will see this slider block with an Allen headed grub screw in. We need to slacken that off to start with. Like so, and I believe it's, let's have a look here. A 5.5 millimeter to remove the bolts that go on to the trigger linkage on the back here. Yours will be fitted with a nylock type bolt. Personally, I don't particularly like them because they're very not great. I chose to just use two lock nuts locked together. That's my own personal preference, but you know, as I say, it's each to their own. That's just my preference. I decided to change them. And then the two grub screws, which, as I say, are under this linkage, just hold the air tube in to the main body. So again, little bit of a wiggle, your main valve and everything comes out there. Typical place for leaking is these O-rings on the insert of the main valve. If you're in for looking into your hammer spring, this is the rear end of the rifle. Obviously you've got your leveler on the top there. So if you flip it over, on the bottom you'll see this grub screw. Loosen it off like so. Then you'll have a slightly slotted groove in the back, which mine has been opened up purely because they're so fine and it does just bust out of there very easily if you're not careful. So that basically gives you access to your hammer spring. Plenty of aftermarkets on the market if you wish to go down that route. Entirely up to you. Obviously sticking to standard sub 12. Keep it as it is. There is no physical adjustment on these. It only winds in so far, so that you haven't got, like on a lot of the other rifles, where you can wind it into retention, the hammer spring. There isn't anything like that in there. So again, it will just wind up to it being 90 degrees, or basically run straight with the grub screw lock on the bottom. We'll just nip that back up. Doesn't need much, just a little pinch. That's basically the main block itself. It's the same design as a lot of the rifles out there now. It's obviously just their own. You've also got your power adjusting transfer port there, which as you wind it down, it closes off the port. As you increase it up, it opens up the port. So you have got a variation on power there. And as with the regime, on the cocking handle, you can unwind the actual cocking lever, which has a flat-headed screw blade on the end, and it slots in there perfectly just to dial it in, dial it out, whichever you decide to do. Again, you know, you've got your O-ring inside your barrel there, which is your probe seal, your breech seal, and you've got 2 O-rings on the barrel itself. If you are stripping the rifle for any reason, thoroughly check the condition of them before reassembling. As I've always said, if you are going to go in and you've got any issue with your rifle, if you're dismantling it, it just pays dividends to get yourself a set, basically pick up yourself a seal kit prior to doing it and just have them there ready, because it may not have been leaking before you stripped it, but with sod's law, when you put it back together, it will start leaking. So if you've got it apart, just do yourself a favour and just replace the seals at the same time. It just, you know, job's worth doing, it's worth doing well. So, you know, preventative maintenance, as they say, you know, if you're going to disturb something, put it back all fresh, new seals, etc. Obviously the rifle's only really just been put back together with new seals, so I don't particularly need to replace this set, as I'm only dismantling it and showing you for that reason. Now, a lot of you say about, oh, you know, they say that there's a 2-stage trigger. Well, you don't really tend to find it is a true 2-stage trigger. Now, what I've done with a lot of the rifles that are the same as this, and that is in here, either side of it, obviously you've got a small C-clip on the back here. That runs through the spring with a washer. Then on the opposite side there's another washer and another C-clip. If you flick out that C-clip, just do away with it, that will give you a nice section of first stage trigger movement until you hit the stop on your adjuster on the back. So it does actually give you a lot more of what I would class as a two-stage trigger. So again, you know, if you want to enhance that feeling, just in front of the body block there, flick off that first C-clip. Leave the rear the same, because you need that tension to obviously return on the trigger. And you will notice a vast difference when you do this. So in regards to tuning, you know, if you're FAC or you're not in the UK, you've obviously got your valve body here. Most will be, if it's sub 12, will be a very small hole. You can open these up. Obviously with a 0.25 you can go a lot larger than what you can with a lot of other calibers, but you know, if you're running 0.22, no bigger than 5mm. If you're running 177, only go up to about 4. That's on that port there. The remainder of the ports on the regime, etc., are already opened up, so you don't need to add anything to that for any tuning basis. You obviously can increase, decrease on the adjuster on the body, which we spoke about earlier. So dial it down if you wish to close down the power, dial it up if you wish to dial it up. Obviously, like I said earlier, you know, if you're not governed by power anywhere, you can fit harder hitting springs. Some people say, oh, you can make a spacer and put it in there, but you know, in all fairness, stick with a proper spring, you're not going to get any interference or any grease like that from internal work that's not meant to be in there. When you're setting up your trigger, the rod, that's the block, the rod will come back and sit through this lever at the back here. Now, the 5.5mm nuts that I took off earlier, you can wind that in and out just to get the trigger to the stage that you want it on the power and the pressure of it. The secondary settings on triggering is that Allen key grub screw there. This one. So again, you know, small increments, little bits of turn at a time, just until it's just till you get it to where you want it to be, really. Obviously everybody is each to their own. Some people like a real positive hard, you know, trigger to pull, others like it a lot softer and a lot sharper. So, you know, there's some tips there as to, like I say, adjusting the nut on the back here, 5.5mm I mentioned earlier. You can adjust this Allen key here, and again, you know, if you want that initial first pull, so you hit the main and then the second stage hits, the only way you're likely to realistically benefit and feel that is flick off that C-clip at the front here. In that body there's a C-clip. Mine's not on it, so as you can see, the washer's just free floating in there. Does make a difference to how it feels. And as you can see, I've dismantled that. There is pressure in the rifle. The only reason you're going to get any sort of pressure come out of it is if you clout the end of the pin there, which there's no need to. Obviously, if you're going into it and you've got a leaking O-ring or a leaking seal on the tube, you can loosen your gauge, drain the rifle down before you dismantle any of the tube fittings, which is quite simple. Just lock the tube in a vise and obviously protect the jaws with, you know, if you're using the vise, particularly a piece of leather or whatever, just to not mark the tube. Grip it nice and tight. There is a flat face on the valve end, and again, you've got a multi-faced hexagonal head on the filler port end. So, but in all fairness, I've found that you don't often get any leaks from the actual tube fittings themselves. It's normally elsewhere in the rifle, and if you've got a lot of just general drainage, it can be leaking from your gauge. The other main issue is you may have a seal in the valve, which is obviously wound into the end there. So again, grip the tube. I believe it's a 12 or a 13mm. Let me just check and I can tell you if... Ooh, see, we'll drop things whilst on video. And that is a 13mm. So on the end face there, you can see we've got a 13mm. So you'd grip the body of the tube in the vise and just crack that off. It will be tight, so be aware of that. And obviously when you wind it out, there is an O-ring on the very inside face of that, so be cautious of that. I don't need to take it off because obviously there's no issue with that on this rifle at all. Yeah, I'm hoping that, you know, this little strip down has helped you. Again, reassembling is just in reverse of what we've just done. So we'll flip that over. Slots into that section there. Line up the valve. A little bit of jiggery pokery. And don't forget to line up your trigger rod here with the eye, so that drops into place nicely should be. Not like that. There we go. Drop that into place so it's nice and snug on there. And again, nip up the grub screws in the base, which will hold the tube in. Place the 5.5mm nuts on the end of that shaft to where you wish it to be. That's about there on mine. And in that state, it is fireable as a test to make sure that you've got it all in, you've got it tight and you're happy with the trigger position. So keep your hands away from the port here, because there's no barrel installed, so I'll actually install that prior to doing this, because it will be one hell of a bang otherwise. So, and what we do is just slide the barrel back down, line it up so the grub screws are at the top and the port into the barrel is at the bottom. Let me just get this lined up. And there we go. Slide the barrel into place, and again, as before, wind down the locking grub screws just to secure the barrel where it should be. Nip that up. Then you will have your initial setting of no pre-play. So what we need to do is just adjust this linkage off until we get the desired amount of play in. First stage is where you want it, so you just adjust it to how much movement you want on the first stage, and then second stage is fired. Then it's basically drop the mechanism, etc. back into the plastic body, put your securing bolts back on, reset your scope up where you wish it to be. Happy days, safe shooting. Hope you enjoyed the video, guys. Hope it's helping you out with some information and insight onto the regime. Absolutely love the rifle, it's absolutely spot on. The only thing I've done with this one, as I do with most rifles when I first get them, is give it a thorough good barrel clean. This one was quite tight on the choke, so it did get a bit of polishing put through it, which has made a vast difference. The grouping is absolutely phenomenal now, and yeah, it's a great rifle. I can't fault it other than that. Hope you enjoyed the video, guys. If you like, subscribe and keep following. Thanks, guys. Bye.